Welcome to Branching Out by Bonsai, the podcast where marketing gets measured, myths get busted, and acronyms get explained. No filler, just the good stuff. Let's get into it. Hi, welcome back to Branching Out. This intro was filmed on another day, but I'm really excited for you to talk to Matt Seitz. He's the AI Hub director at the University of Wisconsin's Business School. He's also my former boss and colleague when we were both at Google. I'm really excited to hear his perspective on the current state of AI, the future state of AI, how you should all use it in your work and in your day-to-day lives. A couple other announcements that are coming. We have a couple big things in July. I'm really excited for you all to see. We will have additional branching out episodes. We will have a lot more video content for you coming around our product, a bunch of new releases that I'm really excited for you to see, and hopefully some fun stuff along the way. So check out this episode. Matt's a great guy and a good friend. Hope you all enjoy it. Cheers. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, it's a pleasure.
Yeah. So let's see. How long has it been since you took the new role at Wisconsin?
It's been 5 months.
Okay.
So it's new.
Yeah. So it feels like yesterday to me, but it's super exciting and appreciate you coming down. Yeah. Love the Badger gear and, Big Ten all the way.
Yeah.
But I would say, of course, we work together at Google. When I talk, obviously, about Bonsai, people are very often looking to hear what I have to say about Google. I do want to talk a little bit about our shared time together at Google, but if you could, just for me, to indulge me, I would love to hear a little bit about your career before Google. I think it's really interesting. Can you tell us a little bit about what you were up to before we worked together?
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, first of all, it's a pleasure to be here and spend time with you again, Matt, and spend time here at Bonsai and to see what you're building is really neat and terrific, and I think distinctive in the market. So it's a pleasure. I think I'm at year 30 of my career, and pre-Google, I was a techie, right? So I was a programmer out of college. And then I did IT, project management, and then I got into data after that. And so, it was consulting, McDonald's, Abbott Laboratories, so a mix of industry and consulting. And, I think the way I think of myself is someone who I'm a nerd, right? So I love technology, but I also like working with people. And so that's the thread that I think wove through all of it. And then eventually made it to Google.
The people who know you really well know about your kind of programming background, right? But if folks are meeting you for the first time, I think that's something really interesting. I think that I know influences the way you think, but it's something that how do you see having that kind of foundation influence how you thought about your future consulting career?
Well, the way I think about it is I love technology, right? And I think technology is at the core of really a disruption in business. And so, for me, it was the PC, and then the internet, and then the smartphone, and now AI. I think AI will be the biggest disruption of any of those for our world. And so I think for me, it's just been sort of riding each of those changes. And now I think it's kind of a special moment. I think AI will be as big or bigger than any of those four. And then another way, it builds on all those four. And so I think the chance to be a part of that it's really special. It's a special moment.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Well, we clearly worked at Google together, as I teased earlier. And so someone's always going to ask you, what made you pivot from a hugely successful time leading analytics at Google to now you're in academics? Tell me about that.
Well, so there's a few things. But I think broadly I mentioned I'm 30 year of my career. So the chance to be more mission oriented, I think is really neat, right? So, what do I want to do for the next 10 to 15 years? Just really make sure I'm spending that time in a way that's driving things I really value. And then there's a couple of elements that I think are neat personally. So I grew up in Champaign, Illinois. My parents were professors at Illinois. I went to high school on campus. And so the chance to be in academia again, I think is really rewarding in that way. And then in terms of Wisconsin, my daughter goes to UW, and so it's fun to share that with her. And then the other thing is
that's the ultimate dad hack, by the way, that you somehow found a way back to say, hey, how you doing, honey? That's so great.
We have this running joke. So in her apartment, there's one of her roommates moved out in the fall. And so I said, hey, Danielle, this is great. I can just stay with you when I'm up here. She wasn't on board with that. She just
Suddenly you're getting your text messages read after that one. Oh, Dad, I'm out of town.
She wasn't buying it. Yeah, definitely not. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a few years to have to worry about that, but I absolutely don't think I wasn't taking notes when I saw that was beautifully done.
Yeah.
Oh man. So I guess we were together at Google in like 2010 or something like that, 2011 through about 2020-ish. You were a little bit longer, but
yeah.
So you led a lot of teams. You led, team I was on, retail analytics. Is there any insight that you brought to our kind of senior leader customers? Is there anything that stands out to you as like an insight that was just really surprising, or things that you saw that really stuck with them?
So it's remarkable working at Google.
Yeah.
The power as an analyst, the power we have at our fingertips, which is primarily Google search, which is how many people are searching for X at any time through access to those track records. And I think you were a huge part of this, Matt. What it did is we stitched that demand together with the fact that because of this product called Google Shopping, every product that's sold virtually in America, Google knows, along with who's selling it, do they have it in stock, and what the price is. Mm-hmm. And so we'd sit down with a CMO, CEO, and say, hey, by the way, you want to be a leading seller of toys, but you're not selling this Barbie Playhouse that tons of people are searching for. Do you want to sell this product or not? And that was very eye-opening. And then the other thing we would add on is location data. So you could say, hey, listen, here's your store footprint. But again, based on what people are searching for, you should be maybe in these 3 markets, or maybe you're overstored in these markets. And so it brought I think a texture to the demand data that was super relevant for retailers.
I remember a lot about working on those projects with you, and agreed. It was one of the most fascinating things, eye-opening, and I guess it confirmed a lot of things that you kind of thought you could do with like that type of corpus of knowledge. And you got to give Google a ton of credit, like people like yourself, and just the culture in general. Like I said this talking to somebody else, but I know you deal with a lot of folks. I'm sure in academia you'll deal with this, and you do a ton in business where people are data intimidates folks, right? And it often gets in the way of making progress. There's absolutely an attitude at Google that data is not. It's an asset. It's not something to be scared of. There's a certain sense of care and expectation that you're going to be able to do something with it.
That's right.
That's a culture thing that I think is really powerful. I really like taking that from my time at Google. There's a million other great things, but that sticks with me a lot.
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say it's kind of remarkable. We were, you were a key part of building this platform, and we were just a scrappy team of analysts working with customers on retail. Yeah. And now most of what was built is in Google Merchant Center and the front end of Google's product. And it just came out of people like yourself saying, hey, I think this has really helped this customer. Yeah. And so it was a special moment to be able to do that and then see it all the way through to a front end product.
Well, yeah, I love that. Love that example. I guess, so this question you could take in your new role in AI, or you could take back in like that kind of data analytics implementation side, whichever you want to take it. Yeah. Was there any like big misconceptions that you felt like were just consistently presented to you from the clientele side that you maybe still see today, or really stick with you as like, man, we got to change this?
Yeah. Well, yes, a lot.
Yeah.
I think we could go a couple of ways with that. I mean, I think in the marketing space, I think. Now, you're a part of this at Bonsai now, but the last few years at Google, I think what I found was that marketers, they're so used to having the hood up and like tweaking keywords and bids. And that's my job, is to tune this engine of Google, and if I'm Meta, like to get the best performance. But AI is better at that than a human can ever be. Mm-hmm. And so having a marketing department shift from saying, hey, instead of doing that, I'm actually going to understand the business. I'm going to understand what kind of customers add the most value. Which SKUs, if I don't sell more of, I'm going to be scrapping at the end of the season. Mm-hmm. And using that to direct the AI is a shift that I think marketers are still struggling with, but is where I think the marketing department of the future will really add value and be a true asset to the organization beyond, again, being a practitioner of the individual dials in that marketing campaigns.
Just to kind of wrap on the Google points, like hypothetically, if you had stayed at Google, what would you have worked on?
What I would have worked on probably is helping customers deal with the shift. So there's a lot of anxiety, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
the search results page is being overtaken by AI overviews,
Yeah.
or a lot of it. And now Google just launched AI mode, which means, okay, maybe people aren't even going to search. They're going to use a chatbot interface. And what does that do to my traffic? And how do I think about Google as a driver for my business? That would be the primary conversation in my current role. A dream job is in AI. I think there's one of the races I'm excited about is the race for the ultimate personal assistant. And I think it's, Google and Apple are the two that have the most customer data that could do this. Google has, Gmail, Calendar, Maps, Photos, incredible assets. And then, of course, Apple has all your on-device stuff. I would love to be in the middle of that.
Yeah.
Finding a way to bring that to life, because it's so powerful if Google or Apple, whoever realize that vision, it's going to be remarkable.
I don't know if I would characterize it as a misconception, but a few nights ago, we were, I didn't know we'd both be at a really cool meeting about, with AI, really people on the cutting edge of development in AI, and hosted out here in Chicago, AI Tinkerers. And it was a great question. Towards the end of the conversation, people were asking about, like, you mentioned the agentic experience in Google search. I think someone brought up like the shoppable experiences of, the, whether it be OpenAI or Anthropic or whatever. And will people, will marketers need to advertise anymore and all this kind of stuff? And I think it was a great question. It's a question that we hear in different ways all the time, but I think it was exciting to talk about and kind of remind folks, even in the AI space, that AI is incredibly impactful and will add value, but the consumers they want to shop. That's why they're shopping. There's going to be an exchange of they're going to go through this process of understanding what's out there. AI is going to play a role in making that better, faster, but if people didn't want to shop, the Amazon homepage would just mail you stuff. They wouldn't do all the other things that keep us coming back. And so, it was even people in the space who know more than I do about how to develop productive customer experiences with AI. We don't really understand how to use it yet or why it's valuable. You mentioned the marketers change between being these sort of hands-on operators versus what they should outsource to those tools, and then what they should go do with their energy, which is the strategy. Some of this is intuitive. I'm excited to work on it here at Bonsai. I would also say there's a lot of it that it's just sort of clear. We don't know. We don't really know what this should look like. And so, you're the ultimate assistant is a cool one. And there's going to be other things too that I think are going to come out of this. So it wouldn't be a boring place to be. Let's just say that. Apple and Google would still be a very exciting spot.
Yeah. What's remarkable is if you look at the space right now, you have OpenAI, right? You have Anthropic, Google. Everyone's trying to sort of be the leader in the technical space. But then you have all the businesses. So you have Walmart and you have Target and you have AT&T trying to figure out how it adapts to them. Mm-hmm. Then you have the startups who are saying, I'm going to go disrupt. I'm Harvey. I'm going to disrupt the legal market, right? Or I'm I'm one of these startups. I'm going to disrupt. Cursor, I'm going to disrupt programming. That's all happening right now. But at the same time, the fundamental technology is still changing, right? So Google, a week ago, released VO3, which is a material advancement in video generation.
Yeah.
And so everybody's trying to now operate their business and advance their business, incorporate. At the same time, the underlying technology hasn't even settled yet. So it's a remarkable time.
So great segue. Yeah. You're now shaping AI curriculum at Wisconsin. I'd love you to tell us a little bit about what your kind of new role is, and then follow up. What do you think AI fluency looks like for non-technical leaders today?
So it's like you said. So what's neat about and a challenge at academic university system is AI touches almost every portion of the system. From what you learn, what you should learn, how you do research, the pace at which things are changing. It touches everything. And at a business school, AI touches every single business function. And so we have to operate and adapt in almost every part of what we do. And that's exciting, right? To think about how do we, and then also how do we think about what we do. We're creating this thing called an AI hub, right? Which is how do we both put people together, put industry together with students or researchers together with faculty or with industry. How do we make those marriages to create value in meeting the moment as an institution where I think universities should lead in a time of change, right? So how do we embrace that moment? And it's really exciting. It's a chance to build again. Literacy and fluency is remarkable. So ChatGPT launched less than 3 years ago. If my daughter, she's a junior at Wisconsin, it launched after she started college.
Yeah.
So it's still so new that I'd say that there's a whole bunch of people when I talk to about AI, they know a little bit, but not much. And those people are like, either this is magic, it's going to change the world, or this is just the next fad.
Your daughter's getting a ton of play on this podcast, so I'm sure she'll be super excited
She's gonna
about
love it.
Oh my gosh. But I mean, she was there, like she can tell her friends, like, I was in college before I could ask ChatGPT to give me the test answers.
That's right. That's right.
It's wild.
I mean, it breaks some of the fundamental constructs of learning, which is when you and I went to college, we had to write an essay or we had to do calculus, and it was not fun to write an essay.
No.
It was hard, but that's how our brains learned. It was through that struggle, and now you can just type a question and get an essay, and now you're editing maybe that essay. And so it breaks one, how do you learn? And then on the other end, it breaks how do you assess? How do you say, was this student, did this student learn what we were supposed to learn or not, right? So it's affecting both dimensions, and we have to have a new model for learning. And then the final piece is, what should they learn them, what do they need to learn? So it's affecting kind of all those dimensions.
Another thing I don't know if people would know about you is, you're a triathlete. I know you're a runner. Obviously, I've never done a triathlon. It's very intimidating sounding. What little I know from running through, which basically involved my wife dragging me out to do runs, and then eventually, learning to like a little bit. All this to say, right? There's a ton of training involved, as I'm sure you know and do today, and through your kind of career doing all those exciting Ironman accomplishments.
Yeah.
You mentioned the struggle, though, and my mind goes to, like, in those pursuits, of course, there's a big physical struggle. How do you think about, like, do you relate any of those experiences to your, not just your job as a teacher, but like your students, and like, how do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, a couple things. So one is, don't sell yourself short. So for those who are watching, Matt was a Big Ten baseball player at Michigan. So he's an athlete in his own right.
A legend.
Yeah, legend. Yeah, you're right. Like, Ironman is hard. It's really hard. And some things I've learned through the process. One is setting an ambitious goal gives you a focus. So a little bit of the story for when I did my first one is I had never done a triathlon before. And so COVID hit, and I'd always wanted to do Ironman. So I said, I'm just going to sign up. So I signed up. It's like $1,500 I paid to register. And so I'm showing up, and I'm starting to train with my, this training group. And they're looking at me like, what the hell, right? Like, I had my helmet on backwards for this team photo. But every day it was like, okay, what do I do today? What do I need to learn?
Yeah.
And then the related piece is, so that, I think, one is this idea of setting a big goal, right? It really focuses you and stretches you. And then the other one is doing it with with others. So there's a lot of long days and training. You go do a 6-hour, 7-hour bike ride and then run. Doing that alone is much less just like fun, engaging than going on a ride with somebody else. And so finding people that you can work together with, I think, just makes it such more rewarding experience.
I love that, setting those big objectives. Have you ever heard of a runner? You would know this because I'm sure you're a fan. Jacob Ingebrigtsen?
Yeah.
Famous runner?
Yeah.
So in prep for this morning's podcast, I wanted to get ready. So I'm like, I got to do a run today because Matt's coming to the office. So I read and I saw on YouTube, the Norwegian method for becoming like a good runner. And apparently they had this, Jacob Ingebrigtsen. He runs for 4 minutes hard, then he takes a break, 3, 4.
Oh, yeah.
So they got the whole workout thing. So to your point about setting an ambitious goal and then realizing that it's really hard, but then not letting that deter you, I stopped a little short of Jacob Ingebrigtsen's workout this morning. I got it through about 2 rounds, and I'm like, this is a real good way this is probably a perfect time for me to wrap this up. I'm going to get back to, my feet here. I got a long day ahead. So, but yeah, no, you're right. It's like, the goal can be a reason to go. I think a lot of people see the distance of the goal as the reason to not start. And I think when the people who've, like yourself and many others who've accomplished so much, not just Ironman, but in your career, it's when you get the realization that it's the difficulty of the objective is what makes it fun to go after it. Right. Not the worried about you didn't get there yet, right? We all have those fears, and and that can take time, right, to teach people. I hope that AI doesn't rob people of the experience of struggle. I do sense that there's new struggles coming though, that I feel like are maybe just changing it. So it's probably fine, but I think it's worth paying attention to. And it's really cool that you think about that. And I know you have real life examples that you have to think about too with your own kids. So
I think that's really well said, man. Yeah, right on. Yeah.
All right. So, oh man. Oh, okay. Before I go into I have a final segment after this, but before I go to that, you're going to be someone people want to know this of too. So with AI doing all this stuff for us, tell us your opinion. What do you think? Where does humanity outpace AI by a lot? We know that humans shouldn't be adjusting keyword bids anymore, but what should we be doing? And, if you could tell us your point of view on that, I'd love to hear it.
I get this a lot, especially students who are saying, what should I study? What should I focus on? So one answer that it's an easy answer, but it is true, is we don't know. Okay. We don't know what the end of the model is going to be. They're still improving very rapidly, and so there's some people think these. Bill Gates recently said that all teachers, all doctors will be out of work because AI will do it all, right? And most people work 2 days a week because AI will be so superhuman. I'm not there. Because think about somebody who's building a marketing campaign. Let's say you're a marketer at a big company. Part of it is saying, "Hey, chatbot, go write me a marketing brief, a campaign brief." It can write you a brief, but what it can't do is it can't understand what your agency thinks about it, and it can't understand what finance their goals are, right? And it can't understand what your merchants care about, right? And what happened last year, right? And all the context that you can bring into that conversation. And so I think the marginal value of producing content may go down, but all the things around it are going to get more important. And so some of the things I talk about are things like synthesis, right? So how do I take something here that a chatbot can create, or an image here that can be created, or some analysis? How do I work on top of all that and put those together into something that's now better than just something I could ask for, right? And so I think it's a little bit of cognitive offloading, which is saying, what can I rely on the chatbot for? And then how do I bring those things together in something that's better than I could have produced without it?
Another thought you just sparked me on is, so thank you. That's helpful, and I think that's a great way to think about that network of the other things to support what once you've offloaded, what you can now focus on. I love that because that applies to a lot of different industries, maybe every industry.
Yeah.
Now I think about it. And it also dispels this idea that like knowledge work will go away.
That's right.
You hear that a lot, right?
You do.
And it's like, that's an interesting way to put it. I don't not agree with that.
That's right.
I think you get to do more knowledge now, right? There's like freedom to unlock an additional layer. We always sort of, and everyone's guilty of this, myself included, right? Like whatever you've figured out to that point, that just, well, I assume that's, the end of it. And then, everything else is the history. And, as you mentioned, like we don't know where the models are going. It's not new with AI that like this has always been going on. Like in your tech career, you've seen it, right?
That's
like
right.
you going back to like, it was mobile and devices and, these things are always like, and AI won't be the last thing. And so just keeping that at the fore, something that I think I have a bit of an inverse experience with tech, with your career, with mine, because I feel like in my career I came to tech sort of after some other qualitative business experiences, right? Not just a time at Google, but I had a marketing job many moons ago. Obviously, I was, you mentioned writing and sport. I mean, I was originally wanted to be a journalist, right? So I share all that to say, like, one of the things I've gotten out of becoming, more on the applied technology side of it is to learn all of that, especially when you're older, you come to terms with the fact that tech isn't actually magic, that it's just like everything else. Now, it might be like cool and it does amazing things, but it's tangible, it's a thing. And we as people we're the ones making it. And technology is very good at abstracting that away and making people feel there's this barrier. I've really liked like that knowledge that everything is just something and you can understand it. And the same way that like a plumber understands plumbing and kind of taking it that sort of full circle. I don't know if you have like a similar experience with tech, but I appreciate the non-magic of it because it makes it feel like something that we should be able to do.
That's right. I mean, I think it's very well said. I mean, two things to think about there. And I talk to students about this a lot is you should understand what the chatbots do because they seem magical and people want to say, oh, these are sentient beings. But what they really are is they're an average of all the text that's ever been written on the internet. Yeah. And what they're doing is saying, okay, based on the text you just wrote me, what is the most likely response to that based on everything that I've ever read on the internet?
Yeah.
And when you start to understand it a little better, to say, okay, that's what it's doing. It's not the Terminator, right? It's not Skynet. I think is really helpful to understand. Yeah. And then the other thing that I think is a key skill that we will need to have in the next generation is the ability to evolve with new technology, right? So Mary Meeker dropped her AI report earlier this week, 340 pages. But one of the stats in there was it took the PC 20 years to be adopted, really? 50% adoption in the US. Internet was 12%, smartphones, or 12 years, smartphones 6 years, and chatbots 3 years, right? And so the pace of change is going to accelerate. And so that ability to incorporate change behavior, I think is going to be a key asset for anyone in the economy going forward.
Amazing. So we're heading to the fourth quarter of this interview. So I don't know if you know this yet, but in the fall, Bucky Badger and your fellow Wisconsin friends and faithful are going to all be jumping around, Matt, when you get to the fourth quarter. So
jump around.
Are you ready for jump around?
I'm ready for jump around.
I wish I had the music teed up. That was my big miss for today. So I'll take that as feedback for the next time you do this.
Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. Pretty good.
Okay. So anyway, I just, before I finish here, thank you for coming and doing this. Yeah. But a few fun questions, I guess, just to wrap this up. So what is can you give us a book every future leader in the space? What's a book they should read?
Future leader. So I love reading presidential biographies. Okay. And I'm now going one by one, starting with Washington. I think I'm going to do Taft next. They get a little dry in the middle, but FDR. Okay. Lincoln, obviously. LBJ, there's a 4-volume biography of him, is incredible. So I think as a future leader, reading biographies of great leaders is really valuable. And if you're not into politics, read Catherine the Great or, find someone in the domain you care about. But I think biographies are excellent learning opportunities. Yeah.
Favorite AI tool that you personally use?
Oh, yeah. So I like the chatbots are amazing. I am able to code again thanks to AI programming tools. So Cursor is just magic. It's like this autocomplete, and it goes and fixes code 5 lines down that it knows it should fix for you. It's a magical experience.
It might be Cursor, but is there like a very underrated AI tool in business today that you feel like people don't talk enough about?
A skill people don't use is personas in chatbots. Yeah. So you're going to go meet with an executive. Hey, whatever your chatbot is. Hey, Claude. Hey, Gemini. You are X. Read this email, read this presentation, and give me feedback on it. It's really valuable.
I love that one. I will have to start doing that more. Okay, final question. Coffee, cardio, or code? What are we doing?
Cardio.
Yeah.
Nothing like, so as a cheat code, if you want to do Ironman, you have to train before the start of the day. You can't wait to try to do it at lunch or whatever because something comes up. So you got to be at 5 a.m., get it done. But there's something good about starting your day and being like, okay, I just did an hour and a half ride, or I just did a great run, and then you just feel invigorated for the rest of the day.
So before you go, you run a pretty cool newsletter for folks who aren't enrolled at your school. They can also read it. Can you make sure to plug it?
Yeah, sure. So it's called Explain It Like I'm Busy, and the AI in there is the AI. And the goal is I think I spend 15 to 20 hours a week keeping up on everything AI, and it's just barely enough. And so what I do with the newsletter is I try to consolidate all that down into something you can read in 3 minutes and understand what's going on with one topic. And then I try to make it fun, so I put images and I have a dad joke in there, and just really accessible. But that's the goal, is to say, listen, I'm busy, but I want to understand enough. And so find me on LinkedIn, and you can follow it.
Awesome. My other thought for this entire podcast episode, by the way, was I was just going to line you up with dad jokes, but I figured, this needs to be a episode that more than 2 people would listen to. So I figured we would give them, a little bit of a reprieve. But next time, we're going to be looking for your best stuff. So
version 2, let's do it. Maybe all dad jokes. Yeah.
Might just be like an extended episode,
That's right.
So catch that on your feed. You could probably skip that. But,
skip that one.
Yeah. Matt, thank you for coming, man. Yeah. It's super fun to have you back. It was always a pleasure working with you and getting to learn from you. And I'm excited to be able to have you come out here and check us out. So thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Matt. It's a real pleasure.
Yeah.
Right on.
Cheers, man.